The dream started with a sunny sky and Wall Street in the background. On the many ground years around ago. And here's what he said: "You are not as prepared as you need to be."
Hey everybody, so Pastor Dana Coverstone out of Kentucky has released a couple of new dreams, one called the Wall Street Barter Dream and another one called Towers, Trains, and Chains. And every now and then I do an interpretation of these dreams. On one hand, I enjoy interpreting dreams like this. On the other hand, I don't enjoy making these particular ones because I don't know of a way to do it without coming across as critical. However, I want to say up front, I personally believe that Dana Coverstone is a man of God, a faithful man, and that these dreams are from God. That Dana has been, must have been walking very faithfully with the Lord for God to have entrusted him with such important dreams and messages for people. The dreams are consistent with Scripture and with each other, and they're consistent with what a lot of other Christians are dreaming. Mr. Coverstones just tend to be very thorough and detailed and full of rich symbolism that has a lot to teach us, more than most dreams I've seen. But they are in agreement with everybody else's and with the Bible. So, and I sense when I hear and see the dreams, and a lot of times there's a Christ figure that appears in the dreams and has messages for us. It's consistent with the voice of God in Scripture. So I do believe these dreams come from God. The reason I do this video, though, is that he himself sometimes provides interpretation of the dreams, or sometimes he brings in another lady named Cherie Goff to do it, and she also is a faithful sister in Christ. I don't want to come across as critical at all. I don't like that, but I do feel like their interpretation at times, the dreams are from God, but their interpretation provided is somewhat lacking. Especially in the Wall Street Barter Dream, the interpretation provided was quite off. So I felt like I needed to do this video to provide an interpretation. So with that said, let's go ahead and watch. I'm going to show you the first part of the Wall Street Barter Dream.
That's how it goes. The dream started with a sunny sky and Wall Street in the background. Many years ago, I was in New York City, and I've flown into New York in the last probably 5-6 years, and I've seen that Wall Street background. And that was what I saw. Everything was clean, proper, business-like. It wasn't the rest of New York. It was clean. I saw normally dressed people on sidewalk standing behind like 6 to 8 foot long white tables. And behind those tables, I saw live chickens in cages, a fenced-in area for horses, racks of eggs. I saw tools. I saw various meat and food vendors, almost like the carts, the food carts that you would see in New York or Chicago. And there were customers lined up, and they were buying and trading, and they were bartering. And I saw a man walk up with 5 12-gauge shotgun shells in his hands, and he traded for 10 small chickens. A lady walked up, and she traded 5 hammers for 15 boxes of screws and bolts. And a gentleman in a very expensive suit walked up and took off his Rolex watch, and he traded it for 15 horses. But the man trading the horses, he said, this Rolex is worth 30 horses. And he gave him, he was getting 30 horses. There were no.
Okay, so the first thing we saw in the dream is that he says there's a sunny sky, and he sees Wall Street in the background. That immediately is a symbol to tell us this dream is about finances. It's about the financial system, and Wall Street is representative of the financial system for the entire country, for the United States. So whatever we're about to see is going to impact the entire country, not just New York City. That's the meaning of Wall Street there. Now, Miss Goff, when she provides her interpretation, begins to take this down a path where she believes this, what we're seeing people standing in lines to barter at these white tables, and there's all kinds of goods on these white tables. They see chickens, horses, racks of eggs, tools, meats. There's food carts. There's people selling at these tables, but they're not selling for cash. There's bartering happening, right? She attempts to take this in a spiritual direction and find some kind of meaning about what the church is doing with the gospel. And that's not what this is about at all. I think that the reason that the interpretation provided is oftentimes because Ms. Goff and Mr. Coverstone may not be aware of all the other dreams out there that Christians are having. Because if they were, they would know that there is a body of dreams. There are hundreds of Christians that have had dreams about an EMP attack on the United States where power is taken out, where we do not have electricity in this country for a long time. Now, EMP, if you're not familiar with that, it means electromagnetic pulse, and essentially what it is it's a nuclear weapon that is launched in the atmosphere of a country, and when it explodes, it doesn't kill people. It sends out an electromagnetic pulse that fries electrical circuits. And the theory is that it would take out not only the electrical grid and the power in your house and internet and everything else, but it would fry cell phones and cars and other things as well. It's a method of warfare that many nations have adopted as a preliminary stage to an invasion. China and Russia both have this in their portfolio and have plans for invasion of the United States that involve this. So that said, let me just do a brief tangent here. I want to say, so this for me is not a spiritually symbolic dream. What Mr. Coverstone has seen is an actual scene, is actual life. Okay, this is what the economy will be like after the EMP attack, and there's clues that that is what has happened in this dream, which I'm going to comment on. But to just as a quick tangent, I'm going to explain that soon I'll be releasing compilations of dreams of different themes that Christians have been seeing, and I believe that there are at least four different themes regarding war in the United States. I believe that these are all to do with the red horsemen of the book of Revelation 6 verses 3 and 4. I've taught in many other videos in my book that Zechariah 6 shows the red horse, which is war, going to the ends of the earth, which would be the Americas. And we believe that we have a strong candidate for the Antichrist, so the red horseman is expected soon. And the Americas would be part of the world where the red horseman rides. So that said, if the scripture doesn't really give us much more to work with other than Isaiah 18 and a few other passages to understand what might happen here during war, but there's a reason God said that in the last days, in Joel 2:28, he said in the last days he would pour out his spirit and the people would have dreams and visions. The reason he would do that is to communicate with us and give us more detailed warnings. And that, I believe, is what is happening with Mr. Coverstone, but also with hundreds of other Christians. So I have reviewed and surveyed hundreds of these dreams, and I feel like there are some clear categories. I have identified what I call phases 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the red horseman and its impact on the United States. So the EMP attack, which again hundreds of Christians have seen, would be, I consider it to be phase 3 of the red horseman and its impact on the United States. I'll be releasing more videos and more information about the other phases. I may release them before this one, not sure, or I may release it after. You can look at the playlist and see. Regardless, I believe this dream is a portrayal of life, of the economy, of what people are doing after this. And any Christians that have had dreams where they saw any kind of a time frame, they've seen that we would be without power for between 4 to 6 months. Okay, that may seem incredulous to you, seem unbelievable, but if you really know anything about what an EMP would do to this country, it's really not that unbelievable. And that's why God has been telling a lot of Christians, I believe, to store up food. But let's get back to the dream. So he sees people in lines at white tables. I don't think the white tables has a significance other than they're white tables. They're the white plastic tables you buy at Costco and you set up for garage sales. These are the tables that everybody has in their basement. So this is what people have. They're setting them up and they're putting goods on them. So what they see is live chickens, fenced in horses, racks of eggs, etc. Now, They don't grow those in New York City, right? So where do these come from? Well, these are from the countryside. These are the countryside in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, somewhere. These have been brought in to help to provide food and supplies to the people of New York City who are still living in these buildings. They need food. They don't grow food. They don't have chickens in New York. Life is becoming very different in New York City very fast. So chickens for food, horses for transportation, tools, meats, food carts. They're bartering. There's no more cash. The dollar has become valueless. This has also been seen in dreams. There's a financial collapse before or during the EMP attack. I think it will happen before the EMP attack. I think the dollar will basically lose its value in phases 1 and 2 of the Red Horseman, but we'll talk about that in other videos. So he sees a man trading 5 shotgun shells for chickens. The significance of that is the man is trading in ammunition for food. So ammunition is something that we would need to defend ourselves, but he's decided that eating today is more important than the ability to defend himself tomorrow. So he's trading that. Now the lady, and we're going to talk more about these people bartering in a later part of the dream when he gives more details about them. But a lady trades hammers in for boxes of screws and bolts. Now I'm not sure, I have to admit, I'm not exactly understanding the full significance of that, of why she's doing that. But if you think about it, hammers are a clear manual tool. You fasten things with nails with a hammer manually, right? But screws and bolts often require power tools. Like to put a bolt through something requires to cut out an area of metal or wood with a drill. And screws usually require a power screwdriver, although obviously you can do it manually too, but it's very tiring compared to a hammer. So without electricity, most people would opt for nails. They're not going to use screws unless they have to. So, but she's getting boxes of screws and bolts, so it's almost like she is kind of doing the opposite of the other man. She is trading in today's tools for what she thinks will be back tomorrow, okay? Which would be the power tools. Then the third man is trading in a gold Rolex for 15 horses. And then they tell him, well, the Rolex is worth 30 horses actually. So he's trading in luxury or gold in order to get these horses. Now, why does he need 15 horses or even 30 horses? Obviously, this is a wealthy man. He's on Wall Street, so he's a businessman. Why does he need 15 horses? A man can only ride one horse. Does he have a family of 15 that needs 15 horses? No. Most likely what he's doing is he's recognizing that we're in a new economy. By this point, if we're at this point, what Coverstone's seen in this drama play out, these people have been without electricity for a while now, for this system to have been developed and set up. This isn't day 1 of an EMP attack. This is after several months. So he's looking at his surroundings and he's realizing the old economy may not be coming back. And I think he's trying to start a business, a transportation business. He's thinking, well, I don't need this Rolex. Maybe it got fried with the EMP attack anyway, so it's not working. But the gold is still gold. So he's turning the gold in to buy horses so that he can, because people in New York City are going to want transportation. They're going to need to get around. So he's thinking, well, I'll get me some horses and people will pay me. They will barter with me to use my horses. And I will get wealthy through barter. Not through dollars, but through barter. I think he's trying to start a business. That's what's going on there. So anyways, let's watch a little more of the dream.
There were no vehicles on the roads. There were plenty of people that were riding bikes. I saw skateboards. I even believe I saw someone on roller skates. But everyone was treating each other with kindness and respect. And a lady walked up and she seemed very frustrated. She said she needed eggs desperately. Tears in her face. She had nothing to trade for them. She said, I need eggs desperately, but I don't have anything to trade. And another lady grabbed 10 eggs and handed them over to the recipient, and she cried. And the person who grabbed the eggs was on the other side of those who were actually had the goods to trade, and or to sell or to be bartered for. But that lady got the eggs and she cried and she hugged the lady back for the gift. And there were tears in her eyes. Now this is the same.
Okay, so we see that there are no vehicles on the road. He sees people on bicycles, skateboards, even roller skates, he thinks. This is a confirmation that there is no electricity. This is one of the signs in the stream that there is no electricity. People have had to go to primitive, unpowered modes of transportation. He also notes, this is curious, he says everybody is operating with kindness and respect. That is unexpected, frankly, from me, especially since I know the chaos and violence that happens in phases 1 and 2 of the Red Horseman, but the people are bartering in a spirit of kindness and respect. And we even see some generosity here. So there's a woman who shows up and she's desperate. She says she needs eggs, but she has nothing to barter. That is evidence that this bartering system has been going on for a while. She has traded in everything she had to trade and she needs more food. She did not expect it to go on this long. And a generous lady just grabs 10 eggs and gives it to her. He says this is a customer that does this, not a vendor. So in theory, this is a lady buying things with barter who is telling, I guess, one of the vendors, hey, put these 10 eggs on my tab and I'm going to give you more to cover it, but I'm giving the eggs to her. So that generosity is amplifying the kindness and respect that he's seen. That is encouraging. That in this environment, people would be there would be some kind of civility that has been brought back at this point, which is unexpected because a lot of dreams have shown bands of gangs roaming the countryside looking for food and being violent. So not sure how this is taking place this way with this much peace and kindness and respect, but this is what he saw. All right, so by the way, this woman would have done better off to get a chicken and let the chicken and a rooster and maybe a few other chickens and let them start hatching eggs, and then she's got eggs every day. But she wasn't thinking that far ahead. So anyways, let's watch a little more of the dream.
Now this is the same dream I had for several nights in a row. And then on the 14th, I had the same dream, but a whole lot more detail was involved. And here's what I saw. Sky was the same, sun was out. Everything was exactly the same until I viewed the tables. And that's when I realized I was with the vendors on the other side, seeing the people who were going to be buying stuff walking towards the tables. So I was on the seller side looking out. These tables were bowing down from the weight upon them and all the items that were set there for the bartering. The eggs that were on that rack were unwashed, and a few were cracked and dripping down onto the other egg cartons. The tools that I saw had slight amounts of rust, and they were organized according to their intentions. So you had you had hammers all on a table, screwdrivers over here, but there were no power tools. Everything was hand driven. I saw the wooden awls. I saw just basically hand powered tools and things like that. There were boxes of screws and nails. There were screwdrivers. I saw hand drills, planers. I saw shovels and rakes and garden tools. And there were also hoses and feeding troughs for animals. And those were all stacked in 5, 10, or 15 at a time. Nobody was carrying cell phones or talking to one or looking at one.
Okay, so now Mr. Coverstone had a new version of the dream. It's the same dream, but on a different night. He saw it from a different perspective. He's now viewing everything from the seller's perspective, and he's seeing new details. One, he's seeing that the tables are bowing down in the middle from the weight of all the goods on them. That means that there are more goods available for sale than people can afford to purchase or want to purchase. So either they can't afford it, or they don't need everything. And a lot of, I think, what is giving that weight to the tables are the tools that he mentions, which means that there is still a lot of consumption needed. People are hungry, but there's not a lot of work being done. He sees that the eggs are unwashed, and a few of them are cracked and they're dripping down. Why is that? Well, they came from a farm. You know, a farm carted these in, not by vehicle, but by horse. There's no refrigeration, and some of them cracked on the way, and they're not washed because there's no plumbing, you know, to provide fresh water. You know, so these are just eggs in a very primitive, unwashed state. Farmers are saying, hey, this is what I got. You take it as is or not. The tools also had rust. These are not newly produced tools. These aren't produced in a factory. These have come out of people's basements, garages, and barns. Okay, they have rust on them. There's no power tools. Why are there no power tools? Because there's no electricity. Because this is after the EMP attack. No one can use a power tool. They don't have anything to run it. So that's why vendors aren't even bothering trying to sell them. And we see he comments, no cell phones. Nobody has a cell phone. Again, because this is after an EMP attack and all the cell phones were fried. Okay, so let's watch a little more of the dream.
Looking at one. And the man with the shells, here I saw him again. He walked up. I noticed he was barefoot. He was holding up his pants with one hand. He had no belt. And in the other hand, he had the shotgun shells. When he was handed the chickens, he took his shirt off and made a makeshift bag out of it to hold these small chickens. The woman with the hammers had pajama bottoms on, but a dress shirt and sweater. She was wearing one earring and had fake nails on one hand and her normal undone fingernails on the other. The man in the suit had forgotten his wallet, but now appeared to have a suit jacket over an undershirt, but no dress shirt, no tie. And the back of his jacket was wrinkled like he slept in it. And when he took off the Rolex, he took off each individual metal bands. He broke it into smaller pieces. And then in the distance, I could hear thunder. And I saw storm clouds coming from the west. And suddenly, lightning struck the Empire State Building, and it lit up. And everyone bartering covered their goods and ran as fast as they could into the buildings of Wall Street. So into the stock exchange, into those high-rise glass-fronted buildings. And then the man that I always see that I believe represents Jesus, he unfurled an umbrella. He was there in the midst of all that near the tables, and he unfurled an umbrella, and he stood under it to shield him from the rain that was pouring on the ground around him. And here's what he said: "You are not as prepared as you need to be. So hearken to my word and brace. Don't barter with my word, as you will come up short." And that was the
Okay, so now he is relaying more details about the different people bartering. So let's look at them one by one. He talks about a man who's barefoot with no belt holding up his pants. This is the man who traded the 12 gauge shotgun shells for some chickens. All right, so he is barefoot and he's got no belt. So physically speaking, what this means is he has already traded in his shoes and he's already traded in a belt on previous days. So this again it means that all of this is happening after a long period of time. Okay. This isn't day one, this isn't week one, this is after months. People have already been trading in things, okay, that they normally would need just to get food. So he was willing to give up his shoes and his belt before his shotgun shells. But now he's at the point that he's so hungry, he is willing to give up those shotgun shells. Now the vendor is willing to give up the chickens for the shells. So on one hand, the man has given up his shoes, which are part of his works, because clothing is a symbol for works. And so the belt as well. All right, so he's willing to give up some of his works, some of the things he needs, and the belt specifically represents truth. So he is now trying to hold up his pants. Without truth, we get embarrassed, and without the belt, your pants can fall down and you get embarrassed, right? So he is giving up things that will embarrass him in the future. And even the shotgun shells are part of that, because what's coming after this EMP attack is a war, is an invasion, which we're going to talk about. But he's not thinking of the future, he's thinking of today. The farmer, on the other hand, is prepared. He's selling the chickens for the shells. He knows what he needs for tomorrow, and he's giving up his plenty, the chickens, to get it today. Okay, so now the woman who trades in the hammers, he goes in detail to describe her her dress, and everything about her dress is halfway done. So she has pajama bottoms, so she's unprepared on the bottom, but she's got a dress shirt on top, okay, and a sweater. She has one earring, not both, and she has fake nails on one hand. So she's basically half done. Okay, she's half done. And I think she is being contrasted with the first man, because the first man has no idea about preparing for the future. She seems to be halfway prepared for the future. She understands things are going to change back. Like, she's trading in the hammers, the manual tools, for future power tool fasteners, but she's mistakenly thinking those are going to have value, and they're really not. Screws and bolts aren't going to be valuable in the future just because the electricity comes on. And she doesn't really need those. She needs more food. She needs to be prepared for the invasion that's coming, not set up with screws and bolts to build things. Nothing's going to be built in the future. So she is only half prepared. Now, he says the man in the suit had forgotten his wallet. He said forgotten his wallet. I don't know if he actually felt that, like had the sense that he'd forgotten it, or if he just said he forgot it because he didn't have it. I'm not sure exactly what Coverstone saw or felt there, but he didn't have a wallet. I'm interpreting that as he didn't bring his wallet because he knew it was useless. Your debit cards won't work in this environment. There's no cash. There's nothing in your wallet that you can use to barter with. So why would he bring the wallet? He doesn't even need his license. Okay. He has a jacket on, but no shirt or tie. Okay. It's just over an undershirt, and the jacket's wrinkled. So, physical meaning, the man has either traded in a shirt and tie, or more likely, these buildings don't have air conditioning, and to be fully dressed would get pretty hot. So he's putting on just an undershirt to stay cooler, but he's got the jacket on because he's trying to preserve some level of status, some level of formality, even though he's lost the other formality. Again, the jacket is wrinkled because there's no power, so there's no irons. He can't iron his jacket. Okay. He's using individual metal bands to pay for the horses from the Rolex. He's counting them out like money. Again, this is because there's no cash, there's no debit cards. This is how he has to pay. All right. So then Dana Coverstone heard thunder, and storm clouds began rolling in from the west. Is specifically what he saw. This is connected to phase 4 of the Red Horseman of the apocalypse in the Americas, which is the invasion that's coming, which is portrayed in the next dream we're going to do commentary on, the Towers, Trains, and Chains dream. And he sees the same storm coming in from the west in that dream. So this is that storm. He sees lightning hit the Empire State Building. Lightning is a symbol of judgment. The Empire State Building is a symbol of New York City, but it's also the Empire State. It is New York State, but it also is representative of the entire United States. And the Empire State Building has been a symbol of our power and our financial prosperity and our strength financially for a long time. So even after the world, the Trade Center was built and the Sears Tower in Chicago, the Empire State Building has remained that symbol. So this is symbolically saying judgment is striking the United States. It's already struck us financially at this time, and now it's striking us politically through an invasion. So everyone bartering ran as fast as they could into the buildings of Wall Street. Okay, and they just run for cover. They understand judgment's coming. Somehow they think they're going to hold on to what they got. They're just panicked. They don't know what's coming. But the man that Mr. Coverstone sees often, which has to be Jesus because of the things he says, unfurled an umbrella, and the umbrella shielded him from the rain, which just goes to speak that Jesus is outside of this judgment, the storm that's coming. He's not impacted by it. He said, "You are not as prepared as you need to be. So hearken to my word and brace. Don't barter with my word, as you will come up short." So the bartering language is obviously connecting back to the dream. But Jesus is speaking here to all of us that have been paying attention and watching these dreams and caring to seek. And he's just frankly telling us that maybe we're not as prepared as we think we are, that we need to get more prepared. We need to dig in. We need to think about things we haven't thought of. And when I say preparation, I don't mean, well, yes, spiritual preparation. I don't think we really have a full sense of the strength of the judgment that's coming and how hard it's going to be, what it's going to feel like emotionally. But physically, we're going to need more food than we think we do. We're going to need more supplies than we think we do. It's going to go on longer than we think it's going to go on. The rapture's coming later than you think it's coming. So he's saying, don't barter with my word. Don't dismiss what I'm telling you. Work to get more prepared, is what he's saying. So anyways, this dream is frankly just a picture of the world that's coming during phase 3, at the tail end of phase 3 of the Red Horseman in the United States, what I call phase 3. And the message is we need to make sure we're fully prepared, that we have enough food and water and other supplies to last us for many months, and even enough for others so we can be generous, like the lady was with the eggs. And be spiritually ready, be spiritually prepared. And that is what Jesus, I think, is telling us through this dream. So next, I'm going to do a commentary on the second dream he released, Towers, Trains, and Chains. So stay tuned for that.